Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Fix Blood Sugar webinar. We are here with Dr. Scott Saunders and myself.
That's me.
Yeah, that's him. I'm Leslie Prinz. Those of you who are new, welcome. We're so excited to have you. We are going to be talking about the dangers of type 2 today and what might be some things that, or the warning signs, I'm sorry, of type 2 and what might be some things that you may be noticing even in your own life that could possibly be type 2. So this is going to be a very good webinar. We're going to talk a little bit about prediabetes and of course take your questions like we always do. So looks like quite a few of you are hopping on. Say hello when you guys get here. We are live on Facebook as well. So feel free to type in your questions there. We prefer if you're on the Zoom webinar to put those questions in the Q&A. They're a little bit easier for us to manage. And I think Joe will be hopping on here shortly. And what else can I say? bartonwebinar.com. If you head there, you'll find a link to all things concerning this webinar, as well as a link to supplements, etc. So let's go ahead and get started with a disclaimer from Dr. Saunders.
Okay, so what we're doing here is for general information. It may not apply to you specifically. So one of the things that you do is you can take down the information and bring it to your healthcare provider, or do some research, or however you look at it, and say, and ask the question, does this apply to me? Because sometimes I'll give somebody some general information that has like high insulin, and if you have low insulin, it would definitely not apply to you. That would not be your a good thing for you to do, for example. So make sure that you apply all of the information to yourself by getting the right information of who you are and what you need.
All right, that's good. Again, guys, we are going to be talking about the warning signs of type 2. All right, so feel free to ask your questions. I want to go ahead and get started. We're going to do a little bit of teaching, a little bit of talking, but if you have questions that come up while we are chatting, put those in the comments on Facebook or in the Q&A, and we will get to as many of those as possible in this quick hour that we have with Dr. Saunders before he goes to be with his local patients. So, Dr. Saunders, let's get started. What are some of the warning signs of type 2?
Okay. This is a big question, actually, because many people don't have any warning signs. They just don't know. And but there are subtle things that you can pick up on that might be really important. So something like fatigue. You may not think of anything fatigue, like, oh, I'm tired, but I'm getting more tired than usual. That's actually a sign that you may not be making energy properly, that you may have energy issues or energy production issues, which can signal a possible problem with type 2 diabetes. So what does that fatigue look like? Well, there's various ways. There's various things that we call fatigue. So we look at tiredness. There's sleepiness. Sleepy is, I'm not sleeping well at night. Well, why not? Well, I have to get up 3 or 4 times to go to the bathroom, and I don't fall asleep right away. And so I'm missing a few hours of sleep in the middle. And so I wake up tired, and I'm kind of tired all day, and I sit in meetings and I fall asleep, or I'm driving and I'm getting sleepy, and those kinds of things. You know what? That's something to look for, because sleepiness, not getting good sleep at night, could be for another reason, and that is hypoglycemia, low blood sugar. So you're saying, wait a minute, doctor, diabetes is high blood sugar. What does that have to do with hypoglycemia? Well, here's the issue. When you go to bed, let's say you're used to eating, and you eat at night all the time, and then your blood sugar goes up and your insulin goes up, and then because the insulin is high, the blood sugar starts dropping low. So by 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, your blood sugar is going down and down and down. Now you're hypoglycemic. And that will wake you up, and you'll wake up and you'll be like really hungry or groggy or dizzy, or a headache. Some people get headaches with low blood sugar, and feeling really tired and weak. And so then you go to uh, eat something and you feel better, and then you can go back to sleep. And so if this is a kind of thing that happens to you, hypoglycemia, especially something that's waking you up at night, could be a big issue, with an indicator that maybe you're getting insulin resistance, and your insulin is getting too high and dropping your blood sugar too low. So then that tells us the other thing. It's not just sleeping at night. What if you get hypoglycemia? What if you are um, uh, just walking around all day and you're getting low blood sugar, um, and you feel weak and tired and dizzy, and man, I just feel like I could go to bed or something, or I need to eat something, and if I eat something, I get energized. People who have to eat something to get energized, they probably have a problem with their metabolism, and can signal early type 2 diabetes. So early type 2, you have an excessive insulin response. Not everybody has this, some people do. And because of the excessive insulin, the insulin is the signal that tells all the cells to suck in the blood sugar. So then the blood sugar drops low. And when the blood sugar is low, then the brain's not getting any sugar. And then you have that kind of an issue, an ongoing issue, with hypoglycemia, and not even knowing. In fact, if you went to a doctor and they said, oh yeah, you're getting hypoglycemia, what will they tell you to do? Well, they will tell you to eat 5 small meals a day with snacks in between, so that you never have an empty stomach, so that your blood sugar never goes down. I got to tell you, that's the worst advice a human being could ever get, because that prevents all of the repair that our body does. And so then what happens is you're eating all day long, you stop eating, you go to bed, go to sleep. And what happens during the rest of that time? So you're eating. Every time you eat, your insulin goes up, your insulin's up, but you're eating again in an hour or two, and taking snacks. But then you go to sleep and you stop. What happens? Blood sugar crash, and you wake up groggy and tired and dizzy and nausea, and you're like, what the heck, Or I have to get up and eat something in the middle of the night. Okay, bad advice. That's a sign of early insulin resistance and early type 2. So those are signs. Another thing is excessive thirst. You may not think of it this way, but when your blood sugar starts going up, you don't feel it. People don't even know, because low blood sugar causes all those problems, dizziness and fatigue and all that. High blood sugar, no problem. Your blood sugar could be 500, and you're walking around, no problem, no issues, nothing. What about a hyperglycemic coma? That's when you're over 1,000 maybe, but some people, I've had people up in the 800s, 900s, and they don't know. They don't know what, they don't feel it. They don't have a problem with it. They may be urinating frequently, but that's all. So urinating frequently is another one. Sometimes frequent urination indicates that your kidneys are spilling extra water. So you're thirsty all the time. You're urinating frequently. You get fatigue easily. You're waking up at night and not being able to get back to sleep because your blood sugar gets low. Those are pretty good indicators that you may be starting out with type 2 diabetes. Another one that we often think about but don't talk about, and that is weight gain. When you're gaining weight, you're going, I haven't changed my diet. And nothing's changed. I'm doing all the same stuff, and I'm not eating a lot, and I'm not eating like a lot of snacks, and nothing's changed, but but my weight's going up. What the heck? Maybe I just need to exercise more. And I've even had people exercise more and they go, it won't come off. And they're really upset and worried about that. And it turns out what they have is insulin resistance. Because with insulin resistance, you can't get sugar into the muscle cells, but the sugar will always go into your fat cells. Insulin resistance doesn't prevent you from putting on weight. In fact, insulin is the hormone that tells your body to put on more weight. So now, when your insulin resistance starts going up, then your pancreas makes more insulin. So then that goes up, you make more insulin, and that's a vicious cycle. You start gaining weight like crazy, even though your diet doesn't change. So that's another sign that you might be getting insulin resistance in type 2 diabetes, even if you don't have a lot of urination or you're not thirsty all the time, and not fatigued. So those are the main early indicators that you might be getting type 2. Testing is the only way to be sure that that's the cause, because there's a lot of reasons why you can get fatigued. There's a lot of reasons why you could be thirsty. Not getting enough salt is another reason for not being for being thirsty. So those are things that you can look for to indicate that you might have type 2.
Even just a note here, something that you said that I've never heard you say before, but insulin is the hormone that tells you to put on weight. I didn't ever realize that. And I mean, I maybe did, but just the way you said that just kind of made me a little bit more aware of some things. So good. I always appreciate it when you explain things in ways that we can understand. So thank you. Really good question here from Roy. What is the difference between type 1 and type 2? And what are the things that you should watch for to tell which is which?
Oh, excellent, excellent. So distinguishing between type 1 and type 2. So type 1 is a problem of not enough. Not enough what? Well, not enough insulin. First of all, the pancreas stops making insulin. Not enough sugar getting into your cells for energy. Not enough protein getting into your cells. So your body wastes away with type 1. Your cells actually shrink down. You get less of everything because you don't have the insulin to get the sugar and the proteins into your cells to build, so you don't grow. Whereas with type 2 is the exact opposite. It's too much. So too much what? Well, too much insulin, because the insulin starts going up. And that tells your body to put on more weight, so you get too much fat on your body. And the sugar's going up in your blood, so you have too much sugar. And the cells are filling up with sugar. And so their cells are filled with sugar. There's too much in the cells. So they become toxic. And that's where you get the neuropathy and the damage to the nerves, damage to the kidneys, damage to the heart. All of those problems, it's toxicity. It's too much.
Very good. We do have some more questions here. I'm going to get some of these started. Meg has a few questions about vitamin A. So I'm going to go ahead and read these. Does vitamin A play a role in helping diabetes? And if so, how?
Oh, that's a very good question. Okay. It plays a minor role because it is a fat soluble anti-inflammatory. It's an antioxidant that prevents damage to fat. That's primarily how it works. So in stopping inflammation, you stop secondarily some of the problems with high blood sugar. But having enough vitamin A is very important to protect your cells from inflammation. And when you don't have enough vitamin A, then you get more of that inflammation in the fat, which is the cell membranes, which can cause, which doesn't cause diabetes, but it contributes to it. So, for example, when people are given extra vitamin A, who have inflammation and they're given like fish oil, omega-3 oils, that by itself can lower blood sugar to some extent. Doesn't cure diabetes, but it can lower it.
Well, and she had asked too, does it help specifically for immunity?
Oh, it's very important for immunity. Yeah, absolutely. Vitamin A is one of the stimulators of the immune function. Um, it's very important for uh, several of the inflammatory mediators, they're called leukotrienes, to function properly. So yeah, vitamin A is important for immune function.
Okay, the next question about this is, how do we know if we can convert beta carotenes into vitamin A, as some people do not do this well?
That's a very good question. You know, you can do a test, and there are several tests out there now where you can test your carotenoids, beta carotene, in the blood or in tissues. And at the same time, if you do a retinoid test, which is retinal, retinoic acid, the vitamin A, the active form of vitamin A, um, you can get a balance, and they will tell you if you have this conversion issue or not. And I think that's a better way than looking genetically, because genetically tells you the possibility that you could have a conversion problem. Whereas the other way, testing your carotenoids versus retinoids, gives you a functional idea of can do you make that conversion well.
Okay, and the last question about this is, there is an amount of actual vitamin A that is allowed before toxicity happens. What are your recommendations for foods and a max in supplements per day?
Okay.
Meg has good questions. These are
That
almost like stump the doctor questions, except he knows a lot of stuff. So it's
these
so
are
hard.
these are really these are okay. So um, beta carotene has no upper level of toxicity. There's no toxicity at all for the carotenoids. So I had somebody who was drinking carrot juice, like pounds of carrot juice a day, and he was yellow. When he came into my office, I thought he was jaundice. I thought he had liver toxicity or damage. Perfectly normal liver. And the way to tell the difference, I figured out, is the skin will be really yellow because it has all the carotenoids in it. It looks like a carrot, it looks really yellow. But the whites of the eyes are perfectly white. Whereas if you have liver damage and you have high levels of bilirubin, the bilirubin will make your eyeballs yellow, and so that's the difference. That's how you can tell the difference if it's a liver problem or not. So there's no upper limit of carotenoids. You can take all the vitamin A, beta carotene type that you want. But the retinoids, which is the oil part, which is like cod liver oil, you can get toxic on cod liver oil because you're getting 10,000 units in a teaspoon. And people who drink, I don't know, large amounts of cod liver oil, to get enough vitamin D, like to get 10,000 units of vitamin D, you're going to get 100,000 or more of vitamin A. So there's more vitamin A than vitamin D in cod liver oil. So that would be how somebody might get toxic on vitamin A. The amount that it takes to get toxic is highly variable. Some people just eating a polar bear liver or something like that could die. It can be deadly because of the damage it can do to the liver. So a million units is clearly in the toxic range. I'm sorry, I don't even know what the LD50 is. That's the lethal dose. 50% of people die from this dose. They have an actual number for that, what the LD50, the lethal dose 50% is. And I don't know what that is. But it's pretty high. It's a lot. Well, think about this, when people are given retin A, that's actually toxic. It peels off the skin because it's toxic. People are given for acne, for example, if you use what is the other one? It's also a retinoid, Accutane.
Mhm.
Is a retinoid, and that's it. They're giving you a toxic level of retinoids, and so you have to monitor the liver. And if a woman gets pregnant when she's taking Accutane, you're gonna have defects, the birth defects in the child. So that's why they're really careful. You cannot get pregnant while you're on this medication. So, and that's all just vitamin A, all of it.
Wow.
So, yeah,
Interesting.
interesting, huh?
That is. Okay. Robert says, please explain again why glucagon is so important.
Okay, gosh. Okay, so glucagon comes from the pancreas. Um, and it's one of those either or things. Either you're going to get insulin or glucagon. So as insulin goes down, glucagon goes up. As glucagon goes down, insulin goes up. So when you eat, it shuts down the glucagon and turns on the insulin. When you stop eating, you're fasting, the opposite happens. The insulin comes down, the glucagon goes up. So the question you have is why? Why is that so important? Well, if you don't have a stable blood sugar, if you're not keeping your blood sugar in the range of 70 to 90 optimally, but 70 to 100 or so, then if it drops too low, if it drops too low, then your brain will not function because your brain needs the sugar. Your heart needs the sugar. Your kidneys need the sugar. Your nervous system entirely needs sugar. They don't store sugar. Your muscle cells store sugar. They store a lot. Your liver cells store a lot. You're not going to get damage to your liver because your blood sugar drops down. But your brain, your heart, your kidneys, your nervous system, those will be affected. So your body's really careful to keep tight control. So if your insulin goes way up and your blood sugar starts dropping down, and then the blood sugar starts getting too low, you need glucagon. What does glucagon do? Well, it tells the liver, hey, that extra sugar that you have stored, let's have it, bring it out. And so like a lot of questions we have, frequently people ask, what the heck? I go to bed at night, my blood sugar is 100. I don't eat anything, and I go to bed with an empty stomach, and I wake up in the morning, it's 120. And you're like, what? How did it go up? I didn't eat anything. Um, that is because of glucagon. Glucagon, your blood sugar overnight starts dropping a little too low so that you don't get hypoglycemic. The insulin drops low and the glucagon goes up and says, hey, make some more. Why does the insulin drop low? Because your muscle cells don't need to take in a bunch of sugar, and the brain cells don't need insulin to bring sugar in. So the insulin has to drop down really low. The glucagon goes up, so that tells the liver, hey, make some more sugar. We got to keep the brain functioning here. And so that's how that system works. I hope that is understandable.
Good. Okay. Our friend Glenn says, good to see you all again. Should I take cinechroma and turmeric at the same time? Is it better to take some of the other supplements in the morning rather than the evening, such as Nervala, immune support, probiotics, etc., or does it not matter?
Okay, in this case, there's only a couple of things that matter. The reason why we recommend the cinechroma in the morning is because the insulin's going to have some effect on the blood sugar, and again, that hypoglycemic thing that at night, we don't want that to happen. And some people, gosh, if you're deficient in chromium and you add in that cinechroma that's got the chromium in it, some people, their blood sugar immediately, they have an effect and it starts going down. And so if you take it in the morning with breakfast, then you're eating a meal. You're not going to drop your blood sugar low. It's not going to be an issue at all. So that's why we recommend that in the morning. The other ones, it doesn't really matter that much, except Nervala, because alpha lipoic acid is better absorbed with fat, and so is benfotiamine for that matter. That you take it with a meal. So whether you take it in the morning with a meal or in the evening with a meal, the Nervala doesn't matter. Turmeric, again, ideally should be taken with a meal, but it does have the piperine in it that allows it to be absorbed. It increases its absorption, so it doesn't have to be done with a meal. You do get a little better absorption, a slight better absorption with food too. So whether you can take them together, yeah, think of them. This is food. You're adding food into your diet. So cinechroma is food. you know, Nervala is food. Turmeric is food. In fact, people often do that. You know, if you go to India and they're putting turmeric in like every day, and most of their food has turmeric in it. So that's food. So if you look at it that way, then you understand. Yes, you can take them together, and most of them are better. You're better off taking them with a meal.
Okay. Chris says, how do I know if I'm insulin resistant?
How do you know? Well, testing, I think, is the only way you're going to know. I'm trying to think of any way indication that you would have. And yeah, you know what? If you get hypoglycemic, you're probably insulin resistant. Other than that, you really just have to test. So the test would be, what is your insulin level, and what is your hemoglobin A1C, and what is your blood sugar? So if you have blood sugar high, insulin high, that's a good indicator that you're insulin resistant, because that insulin high should bring your blood sugar down to low. And so you should have this effect. So when they're both elevated, that's a good indicator, especially if you've been fasting for any length of time. That's a really good indicator that you're insulin resistant, and that's probably the best one.
Okay, and this is another good question from Patrice. What is the A1C number that indicates a person is pre-diabetic?
Okay, so we use numbers just to kind of give us an idea. So in the sense of what is the optimum place to be? So if you look at a hemoglobin A1C of 5.0, that is optimal. That is a great place to be. If you're 5.1, does that mean you have diabetes? Well, no, that's okay. What about 5.2? What about 5.3? So we use the 5.7 as sort of a cutoff of, okay, that's clearly pre-diabetes. You're not in the optimum range anymore. That's clearly you're moving into your blood sugar. Your average blood sugar is over 110 now. It's not in the 80s or 90s anymore. So that's the 5.7 pre-diabetes up to 6.4. So that range we call pre-diabetes, because clearly there's a problem here when you get to that level. Over 6.4, 6.5 and up is diabetes, technically, and that's the way they've defined it or redefined it now, because it used to be they would measure your blood sugar, but the blood sugar is going all over the place. It could be up, it could be down, and then what does that mean? Do I have diabetes or not? Well, it does go up sometimes. So the hemoglobin A1C being an average is an easier way to say, yeah, you know what, your average blood sugar is over 150, and this is diabetes.
Okay, here we have a question. This is from Anonymous. Hello, just started your phase 1 program. I am on glipizide and 0.5 milligrams of Ozempic once a week. Ozempic? I'm not familiar with that one. I have been on the phase 1 program since Monday, and I've already dropped 6 pounds. Is that just water weight? When you're measuring carbs in phase 1, are you taking net carbs? The answer to that is yes. On your food recommendation for food, you have stevia. Can you have that in phase 1? Okay, there's a lot of questions in here, so we may have to revisit this. I'm not done yet. So you mentioned about temps for cooking foods. Can you smoke food at a low temperature? And what about low carb protein drinks during phase 1? Excited about changing my life with your program. Oh, this is from Tom. Okay, so first of all, congratulations on starting phase 1. You took the first steps. And those of you who aren't familiar with what that is, we have the Diabetes Solution Kit. You can find more information about that at bartonwebinar.com. But honestly, I think taking the first step is the most important part. And you already lost 6 pounds, which is kind of crazy. I'll let you comment on that first, Dr. Saunders. Is that water weight?
Okay, so it could be because when you're changing your diet that much, there's something called metabolic water. As you burn oxygen and hydrogen together, you make water. And the hydrogen actually comes from the mitochondria. And so that effect creates metabolic water and changes the way the kidney functions and everything. So changing your diet that much, there's a lot of water weight change. But that's usually about 4 to 5 pounds. So when you're on 6 pounds, then some of that's probably fat. And so that's fine. No, it's not just all water weight, but either way, it's important because you no longer have this excessive water hanging around either way. So that's pretty good.
I answered the question about net carbs. It is net carbs. On our food recommendation, we recommended stevia, and I can answer that too because I did help with a little bit of that. Dr. Saunders is going to say, you know what, if you can avoid stevia, do it for a whole host of reasons. We included that in recipes, etc., because people really wanted an option. They wanted to have some sweet that might be okay. I don't think Dr. Saunders was super excited about that. But we were
I
looking,
did not endorse that.
guys. We were looking out for you guys. And honestly, I feel like that's almost the best answer we can give. But if there's more that you want to say, no. Okay.
Yeah, if you want to know, stevia in some people, it doesn't happen with everybody, but in some people it raises insulin and you're already insulin resistant. And so it's a good idea not to eat it if you have that problem.
All right. Let's see. You mentioned about temps for cooking. Can you smoke food at a low temp?
Yeah, you could do that. So the temperature, the higher the temperature, the more advanced glycation end products are made, the AGEs, and all that, that cause damage to your cells. Well, if you have good antioxidant levels, that's not an issue. In fact, there was a study with rosemary. Putting rosemary when you're smoking stuff prevents the damage. Prevents the cells from getting damaged. So you can actually, there's spices that you could use to prevent any damage. And so yeah, the way you cook at the temperature probably isn't a big deal. I used to cook everything at a high temperature, and now I've kind of turned it down, and it takes longer, but it comes out fine.
Okay. What are your thoughts about low carb protein drinks during phase 1? I probably could answer this too, but I'll let you.
Okay. Low carb protein drinks. Protein also causes the release of insulin. So if you're insulin resistant, I would avoid the drinks. I've had people who have just because of their drinks, which included like they were putting just pure protein in, and then they were putting berries in and eggs, and that's all. And that's a lot of protein. But they just couldn't get their insulin resistance down. The belly fat stayed, and they're going, "What the heck? What? I'm doing everything right. I'm only counting the carbs. Those berries only amount to 10 carbs." And protein will do that. So you have to be careful of it.
The other thing I would mention too, I understand the desire for protein drinks, but when you're limiting your carbs so much, food is just so much better than a drink, because you already feel restricted. So I just feel like actual food is just more satisfying. Let's see. Okay. What % of Americans have type 2 diabetes, and is age a factor?
Well, age is a factor only that as we age, we're more likely to get insulin resistance. So the longer something has been around, the worse it is. And so in that sense, age is a factor. The recent statistics are about 50% of the population of the United States has pre-diabetes or diabetes or type 2 diabetes. And in other words, they have a metabolic problem. 50%, that's an awful lot. But the actual numbers with diagnosed diabetes is close to 1/3 of the population.
Wow.
Today's Fixed Blood Sugar webinar is sponsored by Cinechroma, our best-selling advanced blood sugar support formula. Now, thousands of people around the world are taking Cinechroma every day as part of their program to fix their blood sugar using natural ingredients that simply work. Now, Dr. Saunders formulated Cinechroma to meet key nutritional deficiencies that most people have unknowingly suffered from for far too long. With Cinechroma, you get a blend of 6 key ingredients. The perfect combination of chromium, vitamin D3, and vitamin K2, which it's important to take those two together, selenium, vanadium, and our 10-to-1 cinnamon bark extract. Now, if you're not already using Cinechroma, I highly recommend that you give it a try and see how it helps your energy, your weight, and your blood sugar numbers. You can get Cinechroma at bartonnutrition.com or on Amazon. If you get it at bartonnutrition.com, you can enter the coupon code webinar25 and you'll save 25% off at bartonnutrition.com. But I realize some people like to go to Amazon as well. So anyways, Cinechroma, highly recommend. Now let's get you back to the Fixed Blood Sugar webinar.
Wow. Okay, let's see. William says, I was able to visit my cardiologist and discontinued taking metoprolol and warfarin. Is it warfarin?
Warfarin.
Warfarin.
Yeah.
Okay. I showed him the research behind my choices, including the one in Nature magazine with the 12.8 million in the study. I also showed him research on cholesterol, and he still wanted me to continue it. I told him how it causes heart disease, and I would rather not do that. He reluctantly agreed. I am totally off all meds at age 67. I feel better than I have in years. Again, thank you for your excellent diabetes reversal program and your webinar that answers our questions and keeps us on track. Okay, now I can't cry. I feel like I'm going to cry because I love these messages that you guys send. So, so good.
Don't cry.
This is what I do. I cry all the time. If you've done an interview with me, you know that already because you've seen me cry when you tell me your story. So we actually
Is it your birthday, Leslie? If it's your birthday, you can cry if you want to.
That's right.
Cry
Hey,
if you
there's
want to.
Joe.
Cry if you want to.
There he
Yeah.
is.
I've
That's
been here
hilarious.
most of the time. I'm just kind of lurching in the background. So you're doing awesome.
Not creepy at all. It's fine. Let's see. Okay, Bill, that's just so exciting. And I'm so glad you also showed up with your own research. And I feel like good for you. Good for you. All right. What else do we have here? Sorry, I gotta hop around here a little bit. Okay, Meg says she found a new sweetener option called Smart Sugar. Are you familiar with that at all, Dr. Saunders? It's
Gosh,
a mix.
I don't know. Let me look it up.
Well, it's a mix between cane sugar, chicory root fiber, tapioca syrup, and tapioca starch, monk fruit. And the issue is, of course, the sweet taste again, I think would be what Dr. Saunders would say, but
Yeah, but what would you say?
me,
Yeah.
it's hard to do life without sweeteners sometimes. So I would say, see how you feel. If you're eating super clean and you feel really good and you want to try a sweetener and see how you respond to it, then you'll get your answer. That's what I would say.
Yeah. Well, my wife has her Sunday chocolate, and she just says, you know what? On Sundays I get my chocolate, and that's what she does. And so, I even buy it for her and make sure that it's there in the house so that she has some.
Awesome.
So yeah, if you limit it in some other way and you say, okay, I want to have something sweet, then and you occasionally have that, gosh, that's better than stressing over, I can't eat anything sweet and I'm dying here. Because you know what? Remember, if you remember the webinar on stress is worse than poor eating or not exercising or whatever else. The diet is less important than stress.
You're right, but that doesn't mean that you eat sugar all day, right? So, just so we're clear. All right.
A little bit of license, right?
Let's see. I think this might be from Tom. I'm not sure. Last one, and you guys are great. My 1-a-day vitamin has some chromium and selenium. Would it be too much to then take cinechroma?
Oh, it might. Chromium, there have been studies on chromium over 1 milligram a day, and what we put in is 200 micrograms of the selenium. So you don't get toxic on chromium very easily. People who worry about toxicity of chromium are really talking about chromium hexavalent chromium, which is the inorganic form, and that is toxic. But that's the industrial waste type of chromium, and that's actually bad. But the type that they put in, the 3-valent, the chromium, or the chromium 5, is not toxic. So that's not going to be an issue. Selenium, on the other hand, when you get too much, it's toxic. I wouldn't take 1 milligram a day. So look on there and see. Make sure you're not taking more than 200, not more than 400 micrograms a day of selenium.
We have a question on Facebook from Marlon. What is good for back pain?
That's okay. The number one most important thing for chronic back pain is to look at why it's there. And why it's there is so important, because I've had everything across the spectrum of somebody who was going to a chiropractor for 5 years every week, and he's like, yeah, I feel better for a day or two, but it comes back. I have to go back and go back and go back. And he was getting some neuropathy in his leg, and it turned out he had a ruptured disc and had a pinched nerve and had to have surgery on it. And he came back and said, wow, I'm glad I had that surgery. My leg's feeling better now, and it's not shooting down my leg. And then I had the other side, where someone was on her 4th surgery, and she came in to me for the pre-op physical exam. And I'm like, wait a minute, number 1 didn't work, number 2 didn't work, number 3 didn't work. What's different about why is number 4 all of a sudden going to work? She goes, I don't know. That's all they say. That they just say that's all we can do is another surgery, and I'm in so much pain. Well, I said, have you been to a chiropractor? And she said no. So I said, okay, go see a chiropractor and then come back if you need that. And she called me and she said, I canceled the surgery. I feel better than I have in a long time. So it didn't go away completely at the time I talked to her, but she never came back for this pre-op physical. So I'm assuming that she got at least somewhat better. So you have to, for back pain, you just have to know why it's there and know what's going on, so that you can say, this is what it requires. So having said that, let's look at the general case of back pain. It's an emotional feeling of a lack of support. When people feel like they don't have support, when they're feeling alone and having no support in the world, back pain is a common problem. And the reason that happens is because the brain is going, and there's a stress involved, and it causes constriction of the blood vessels in the back. And you need your back muscles all the time. Your back muscles are working constantly. And so, unless you're lying down, but if you're sitting up or standing, you're using your back muscles to hold all of your vertebrae in place. So because of that constriction of blood vessels and lack of blood flow, you start building up lactic acid in your back, you get spasms, and the worst pain human beings experience is spasm. It's not getting cut, it's not pressure, well, it's pressure essentially is a spasm. So a lot of back pain is caused by an emotional feeling of lack of support. And so dealing with that would be a much better way. There's whole books written on it. Dr. John Sarno wrote a series of books called Healing Back Pain, Mind Over Back Pain, The Divided Mind, Sarno, Sarno, right? And he talks about why it is that and how it happens, because he's a researcher. That's what he does. And I've had patients go to see him. Actually, I had a patient who went to see him and before he died, and got better after years of back pain. So that's something to really think about if you have chronic back pain.
That is awesome.
I'll just chime in real quick on that. I personally in the past used to have back pain, but it all went away when I started regular fitness training, strength training, just like exercising my back muscles. Simple rows or pulls or different things like that goes a long way to get your back strong. And yeah, that did it for me.
Yeah, thanks, Joe, for bringing that up, because exercise is one way to dilate blood vessels and allow better blood flow to get rid of all that lactic acid and stop the spasms from happening. So absolutely, exercise is a great thing to do.
I've also found too, I often will have gut and back issues together. They're often very, I don't know what you would say.
Coincidental.
There you go. There you go. That's good. Candy from Facebook says, what is best for neuropathy?
Okay. First of all, knowing why you have the neuropathy is best. We have a supplement because we did a lot of research on this, and we looked at why is it that people with diabetes get neuropathy? And there's two primary problems. One is inflammation in the nerves, and so we have something called alpha lipoic acid to relieve that. And then the other one is blood flow. That you actually, the tiny blood vessels, not the big ones, but the tiny ones, have very poor blood flow because the lining inside it is messed up. So there's something that can repair the lining or help repair the lining. It's called benfotiamine. It's actually a B vitamin, vitamin B1, but it's a fat soluble B vitamin. So it gets into the lining of the blood vessels and helps that to repair. So that can help the neuropathy in a large number of people, especially if it's caused by diabetes. But if you have other issues, neuropathy can be caused by all kinds of things, infectious diseases, other reasons for lack of blood flow. We've had a lot lately with vaccines causing neuropathy. I had someone in today who paralyzed from getting not the COVID shot. It was another vaccine many years ago. So there's a lot of reasons for causing neuropathy. And so finding the reason and dealing with that is better than just randomly trying this pill, that pill, or whatever.
Right. We talked about a lot of different warning signs that you may have a type 2 today. So if you are experiencing some of these things, we talked about frequent urination, sleeplessness, excessive thirst, fatigue, weight gain. What do we do with that? Where do we go from here?
Testing. The next step is testing, because like somebody asked the question, well, how do I know if I have insulin resistance? Well, you're really not going to know. So you have these indicators that, you're getting neuropathy in your feet. For example, I had somebody today with he's been on his list of medications is, oh my gosh, like 30 long. He's got an insulin pump and all this stuff. And he says, my feet are tingling, and the tingling happens randomly. And so he went to the neurologist, and he goes, oh, it's random, it's okay. Well, it's not okay. That's a sign, right? The nerves aren't dead yet. Okay, fine. But that's a sign that there's something wrong. But what do you do next? That's your question. Okay, if the next question is test, find out. do you have excessive amounts of insulin? Well, he's got to get off his insulin pump if his insulin is excessive. And so I need to test that. If you have no insulin at all, oh my gosh, then you need to be on an insulin pump so that you can get energy into your cells. So it might be very different depending on what the problem is, but testing is the next step.
All right. And the other thing we mentioned in the beginning was kind of just knowing, I just want to go over this part again. How you've transitioned from being pre-diabetic to full-blown diabetic. And I think you said your A1C numbers, but is there anything else, any other way that you would know?
Well, a full-blown diabetic symptom-wise is urinating frequently. So frequent urination, thirsty all the time. That means if there's sugar spilling over into the urine, then you lose water with it. Okay. And you can't hold on to the water. So you're drinking water, you're peeing it out, you're drinking it, you're peeing it out. And because if the blood sugar is high and the kidney is not reabsorbing that sugar, then it's going to go out in the urine. So frequent urination has always been sort of the sign of that's full-blown diabetes, clearly.
Okay. Let's see. A couple questions left here, I think, before we go. You had mentioned that 50% of Americans are pre-type 2 diabetics or have type 2. How much greater are my chances of being in those categories if I'm overweight? If so, how much overweight is a high risk?
You know what? Being overweight, there is a higher risk for being overweight just because, not because of the weight itself, but because diabetes is a disease or a problem of too much. So yeah, that increases your risk, but how much? I don't know that there's any specific characteristics, because you could be underweight and have type 2 or type 1 diabetes. And I've seen people with in the entire spectrum, people who are very overweight who don't have diabetes, and people who are underweight who do have diabetes. It's so specifically, that's not an indicator by itself. But remember we talked about the gaining weight, and I can't lose any weight. You know, I'm eating less, I'm exercising, and I'm not losing weight. That's a good indicator, but how much? Everybody's different.
Okay. All right. I have a question. Are you familiar with Moringa? Meg is wondering.
Yeah. Moringa folia.
Okay, so even after 2 surgeries, this affects my husband's life greatly. So if it would be helpful and it could add great quality of life, she's wanting to know.
Yeah, Moringa, it's a fruit from Tahiti, I think it is. And potentially, I don't have any research in my head to know if that's going to change the quality of life. So how would I evaluate that kind of thing? I try it. You know what? And try it and see if it makes a difference, because if it's going to make a difference, clearly it's going to make a difference. And 2 weeks is generally enough time, for some people a month. But you know, you don't have to be on something for 6 months or a year to try it out. You know, it's something like that. You know, try to see if it makes a difference.
All right. Okay, so those of you who are new or maybe aren't completely sure what the diabetes solution kit is, it is available at bartonwebinar.com. And this is where Dr. Saunders goes through the steps that he also recommends to all of his patients in his office about how to reverse their type 2. You know, they talk about restricting your carbs in phase 1, limiting your carbs, etc. And there are recipes, just a lot of good information there. So you can go to bartonwebinar.com to find information on that. There's also a link to all of our supplements there. So I think that's all we have today. It is. All right. Dr. Saunders is going to go be with his patients. And so we thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you next week at this brand new time.
Yeah, Wednesday.
1 p.m. Central.
Nice.
Yes. All right.
Okay.
we will
Dr.
see
Saunders.
you.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
And Joe's traveling, so we can't see his picture, but he's there.
Yeah, I'm here.
This is a good good time.
Yeah. Is Eric Holman, is he on the call that you'd be able to make him available if he wanted to?
That is a good question. Let me see.
I don't even know if he's on right now, but
I have an Eric, but I don't know if it's
probably him. I think he was just Eric in the past. So yeah. Could you make him Eric, if you're up for it,
there, I
great.
allowed
If
him to
not,
talk.
that's fine. Okay. Eric, are you there?
Hey,
Hey, all right. So I thought it would be kind of fun to give everybody on the webinar here a little bit of a peek inside the back office of Barton Nutrition and Barton Publishing. And so it's kind of fun to let you guys in on some stuff. But last week, Eric and I and Leslie's husband, Tyler, and a couple other guys on our executive team met for our annual planning. And that's where we, plan, like, what are we going to do in 2022? What are some of our big goals, and what are the rocks that we focus on, and different things that we want to get done, and products to think about, or other things to improve, and I just wanted to share something connected to Eric here. One of the things that we're really passionate about and is in our core values as a company is helping people. And the webinar that you're on right now, honestly, it actually is a result or a fruit of that. Like, it was kind of me sitting back and thinking, how can we help people more? Because we help, we have the diabetes solution kit that we publish, and it helps a lot of people, but I know just from feedback from people that there's a lot of questions that people have. And I thought, I think if we had a weekly webinar where Dr. Saunders could come on and help answer specific questions, like, that would be super valuable. And it really has, like, we've, I think, done 121 or 122 of these now every week. And we get a lot of just great feedback from people. And so one of the goals for 2022 is, it's like, how do we get more? The way we measure it is, we call them raving fans. How do we identify people that love who we are and what we do, and are kind of like our little evangelists out in the world that we maybe even don't even know about, because that's important to us to make sure that we're a company that has great products and gives high value, and so that helps people. And so we would love to connect with you, and that's one of Eric's jobs, is to improve our processes for how we connect with you guys and with our raving fans. It's the people that are that have bought the diabetes solution kit and put it into action and experienced great results. And we love to hear from you. And then, we have another level. It's people that are using our supplements and seeing their blood sugars come down into normal ranges in really fast times, and their energy levels improve, and that. And so we know there's a lot of people out there that, take our products. Not all of them are necessarily going to be raving fans, but I know there are some out there too. And we like to connect with you, because that helps us as a company to really better understand who we're serving, who our market is, who our people are, like, who's our tribe. And so I don't know, Eric, if you wanted to speak any more into that while we're here.
I do. Thanks, Joe. So I'm new to Barton Publishing, Barton Nutrition, but I'm not new to Joe Barton. Joe and I have been friends for a dozen years. And all the time that I've known him, I can, he just has a heart for the Lord and a heart for people. I've worked for other people, and a lot of times your annual planning would be about, numbers, dollars and cents. But with Joe, it's about people, lives change. So he decided to hire me to come in and put a strong focus on that. I think one of the things that I'm kind of surprised at is when I look at the value of the webinar and having a world-class doctor and being able to pick his brain for an hour every week. I think that's huge value, but try to figure out why we don't have, hundreds of thousands of people trying to get on the webinar and having them have issues connecting because we've got so many people trying to get in. Because I've been on a few and the content is fabulous, but that's really the goal, is to help people. So I think the webinar is a big part of that, but there's also different touch points that we have with customers, whether it be, supplements, information products, the emails, the Facebook, all the different places where we're currently serving customers to find out, where we're surpassing and exceeding expectations and where we may be dropping off. So I think this is a good place to put that out. If anybody on the webinar has any feedback, even just feedback as far as what your expectations were coming in to the Barton world, how they've been met, unmet, exceeded, that would help give us clues as to where we could, try to provide more value, and places where we're providing great value and could get that to more people. That would be awesome.
Yeah. So what we typically do is we'll give out our email addresses. Leslie at bartonpublishing.com is Leslie's, and then Eric's is a little different. So we have another Eric on the team. So this Eric didn't get Eric at Barton, but his email, and we'll probably set up like a separate email address for this. But if you're listening right now and you've got a story to share with us and you want to help us out, we would love to hear from you. And that's one of the ways that we're going to measure, how many raving fans we have and how we've made that impact, is we want to talk to you. We want to get on the phone with you, hear your story a little bit one-on-one, and, just kind of celebrate that together as well. So, if that's you, just send an email to EHOLMAN, Holman, Eric Holman, EHOLMAN at bartonpublishing.com. And he would love to connect with you as well. If you'd rather connect with Leslie, she's doing the same thing as well. She's also balancing, managing her household and her busy kids and all that as well. So Eric has a little bit more time on his hands to help with that. But yeah, either one, we would love to hear from you. And yeah, let's hop on a phone call together. Let's get to know each other. Let's help, talk about together. How can we help more people? How can we find other people out there that might be suffering and struggling and, don't have good answers, and maybe are sick and tired of, the traditional medicine system that just can't help them enough, or they can't really get to the root cause. Dr. Saunders talks a lot about, hey, let's first find out why this is happening. And that's super important in what we do. And, our information products talk about that, the diabetes solution kit, different tests that you can take, how to work with your doctor. We love helping people get off medications with their doctor's astounded approval. And we love to hear stories of, hey, I used to be on, metformin, or I used to take a bunch of insulin and now I'm off of it and my blood sugars are normal and my energy level is great and I lost a bunch of weight and I'm able to, play with my grandkids again, or golf again, or travel. So we love to hear that, because, Eric mentioned, I do have a heart for God, and I I think that goes into my personal story and my family, my mom and dad, and just like seeing them go through the traditional medical system and not necessarily really being helped with the problems that they had, and whether it was cancer or ulcers or acid reflux or dizziness, things like that. They just didn't get the help that they could find, that they found in people like Dr. Saunders and those natural remedies that actually work and don't have side effects. So yeah. Anyways, I got a cough. My apologies. Not COVID, so you're not contagious, or you're not going to catch it from me. But yeah. So anyways,
I did put the contact information, guys, in the chat if you want to get a hold of me or Eric. We would love to hear from you. So feel free to do that. And these guys are no joke. They're not just saying that they care. They care. They're good people, and we really truly want the best for you guys.
Yeah. And the other thing, one last thing is, we realize that, we send out emails every day, and sometimes those might be like, maybe you might feel like they're incongruous or not connected to like who we truly are. And we want to know that, like, we want to know when you get an email, it's like, hey, this doesn't really sound like you guys or something like that. So we'd love to have that type of feedback as well. And Eric's going to be digging into that as well, and just kind of like improving the way that we communicate through email. Because I mean, the education is a huge part of improving your health, and that's, the emails really do that. Like, it's our daily way to stay in touch and to help you just stay in that mindset of improving yourself and finding natural ways that can help you live your best life. And so, but yeah, any feedback that you can give us, we love to hear it. Eric's really going to be digging in this year, and I'd love to connect with you. So yeah, good stuff. I thought I'd give you guys a peek under the hood, share a little bit. So that's it for me.
Today's Fixed Blood Sugar webinar is sponsored by Cinechroma, our best-selling advanced blood sugar support formula. Now, thousands of people around the world are taking Cinechroma every day as part of their program to fix their blood sugar using natural ingredients that simply work. Now, Dr. Saunders formulated Cinechroma to meet key nutritional deficiencies that most people have unknowingly suffered from for far too long. With Cinechroma, you get a blend of 6 key ingredients. The perfect combination of chromium, vitamin D3, and vitamin K2, which it's important to take those two together, selenium, vanadium, and our 10-to-1 cinnamon bark extract. Now, if you're not already using Cinechroma, I highly recommend that you give it a try and see how it helps your energy, your weight, and your blood sugar numbers. You can get Cinechroma at bartonnutrition.com or on Amazon. If you get it at bartonnutrition.com, you can enter the coupon code webinar25 and you'll save 25% off at bartonnutrition.com. But I realize some people like to go to Amazon as well. So anyways, Cinechroma, highly recommend. Now let's get you back to the Fixed Blood Sugar webinar.
Awesome. All right, you guys. Well, thanks for hanging out with us. So many good questions today. And thanks for getting on. We've had a lot of people come on that were on the Thursday webinar. So I'm glad that this time worked for you. And remember, if there's ever a time where you can't watch the webinar, they are recorded and put on our Facebook, or excuse me, actually they are on Facebook too. They are on our YouTube channel. You can get there from bartonwebinar.com. So looks like maybe we have some people already commenting about some things. Let's see. Yes, email us. We're excited to hear from you, and we will see all of you next week. Thanks, guys. Thanks for hopping on.
Thanks, Leslie.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Eric. See ya.
Thanks, bud.
Bye,
See ya.
everyone.